I would like to say good evening and thank you very much for coming for this special event of the Iraqi Cultural Centre in London. We are gathering here tonight to commemorate the 6th anniversary of the bombing of the Al-Mutanabbi Street in Baghdad in 2007. And despite it being a sad memory and a tragic event, but don't we all feel a sense of hope and rejuvenation and resurrection for this most iconic street of the city, in the city of Baghdad, the ancient city of Baghdad, the city of history and knowledge, the great capital of the Islamic Arabic Empire which ruled from Spain to China. And it is not only Iraqi people who were saddened by this tragic event, as we shall see. We have with us tonight Mrs. Janet Brantley, who is originally American and doing a great deal to push forward with the help of her friend Margaret Cooter from Canada. They are pushing forward for this great project, which is called Al-Mutanabbi Street Starts Here, in order to revive and rebuild this iconic street. I must mention, though, that the man behind all this is Mr. Bobo Soleil. He is also American. He is a bookseller. He was very distraught when he knew about the bombing. Our message tonight, whether to American people or all people in the West, is one of friendship and love. Because at the height of the bombing in Iraq, Iraqi people were still very hospitable to Western journalists, and we read many stories of this kind in the Western press. And tonight is going to be just the same. Janet is going to proceed with the rest of the program, so I would say please enjoy yourself. And many thanks for coming. And there will be, after this, a tasty dinner from the delicious Iraqi cuisine. You are welcome, and thank you for coming.
Masa al-Khair.
Good evening.
Thank you for honoring me with your presence here tonight. Some of the poetry will be recited in Arabic and some in English. It doesn't matter if you don't understand the actual words. Just sit quietly and listen, just as you would if you were sitting alongside a river. We don't need to know the organic composition of a river to be moved by its beauty. I'll begin with an explanation of this project. Al-Mutanabbi Street starts here. It's been called a literary bridge to Baghdad. The seed of the project must have been sown the very moment when San Francisco poet and bookseller Bo Soleil picked up his daily newspaper containing a story about the horrific event in Iraq on the previous day, March 5th, 2007. He read that a car bomb had been exploded on Al-Mutanabbi Street, Baghdad's historic booksellers market, killing more than 30 people, wounding more than 100. That this market, this literary and cultural center, Al-Mutanabbi Street, which has been the heart and soul of the intellectual community for centuries, lay in ruin. It had been a place where people have come from miles around, hungry for knowledge, books, and stimulating conversation, stopping in cafes such as the Shabandar Cafe for generations upon generations. And I must point out, we have books that actually were in the bombing here tonight from Al-Mutanabbi Street. This is a very moving and special opportunity. Is a strange word to use, but those books speak so much by just sitting there on those plinths. On the other side of the world, in a used bookstore in California, Bo Soleil could not remain passive. In his opening words for the anthology published for the project, Bo states, "Sometimes the weight of our own silence becomes completely unbearable until we cannot take one more day of reading about blood, bone, and ash. And the moment comes when we recognize that this distant landscape is our own and that we must walk through it." He goes on to explain why he felt, as a poet and bookseller, an urgent need to keep this singular tragic event in our consciousness, because it has such deep historical and cultural implications for us here in this country and for the people of Iraq. And so the first bricks of the bridge were put into place. He began, Al-Mutanabbi Street starts here, as a way to express solidarity with Iraqi booksellers, writers, and readers. Booksellers explains the project's title, saying that Al-Mutanabbi Street starts here conveys the notion that wherever someone sits down to write towards the truth, or sits down with a book, that's where Al-Mutanabbi Street starts. His first action was to organize a memorial reading. He also asked letterpress printers to create broadsides as a response to the tragedy. The project evolved into the Al-Mutanabbi Coalition as it gathered artists, writers, and poets from all over the globe. British book artist and printer Sarah Bodeman soon joined the project and now coordinates artists in Europe. The original target of 130 broadsides has been reached, and they have been recently delivered to be part of the permanent collections at the National Library in Baghdad. As an added visual response, book artists were asked to participate. 260 artists' books, unique works of art in book form, also from contributors all over the world, are now being exhibited in different venues worldwide. Each artist was asked to create 3 books. The criteria for the book artist was as follows: to create work that reflect both the strength and fragility of books, but also show the endurance of ideas within them. We seek constructions of all the various vessels of the printed word, ones that pay homage to the truth that can rest between any 2 covers. We are looking for work that reflects both the targeted attack on the streets of booksellers, as well as the ultimate futility of those who try to erase thought. The John Rylands Library in Manchester and the Cambridge Arts Council in Massachusetts in the US are both currently exhibiting a complete set of books. Today, also in commemoration of the anniversary, there are events at the library in Manchester, as well as a reading that is taking place as I speak. There will be a photo of the library with the installed exhibit on the slideshow, but I encourage you to take a trip up north to see these amazing books that have traveled far and wide, made by artists who are miles away from Baghdad, but close in spirit. We have a small sample of books here this evening for you to see, which Margaret Kuchar will explain later. Al-Mutanabbi Street was named after the greatest Arab poet, who was Iraqi, a 10th century poet, Al-Mutanabbi, whose statue stands by the Tigris River. When the bomb exploded, out of the destruction emerged a spring. Al-Mutanabbi Street has become a river in its own right, flowing to wherever someone reads a poem in its honor, to wherever someone's heart breaks for the loss of life. It is moving water, flowing words that cannot be stopped. Wherever someone builds a bridge, Al-Mutanabbi Street will wind its way there. In August of 2012, an anthology of poetry was published. It contains work from writers from both the East and the West. It was exciting for me to read and to find that many people think of Al-Mutanabbi Street as a river. One of my favorite pieces is by Musa al-Nasiri, called A Man in Love with Knowledge. His story is a true story of his life and how it has been influenced by the people and books of Al-Mutanabbi Street. I will end with an excerpt from his story. The great efforts to restore the street mends my soul and gives me patience. It assures me that this deeply rooted street will come back one day to continue its intellectual and cultural role, to be a river that serves thinkers, scientists, and intellectuals. And as the old Arab adage says, Cairo writes, Beirut publishes, and Baghdad reads. Thank you.